The Premier League has a Manchester United problem, and the funniest part is, United can win, and it still doesn't go away. Picture this. Old Trafford, February 1st, 2026. United are 2-0 up. Everyone finally relaxes. Then the whole place tightens again.
رحلة العودة
Kevin again, towards the top corner, and he finds it! And
Penalty,
Fulham!
equalizer, and suddenly it's 2-2. And if you've watched United since 2013, you already know what comes next. Panic. But then, out of nowhere, Benjamin Šeško smashes in a stoppage time winner.
Here as Bruno Fernandes picks out Benjamin Šeško!
3-2. Relief, chaos, and outside the stadium, the same banners, the same chants, the same angry energy. So what did we learn? That Manchester United didn't return. They survived. And survival is exactly why the Premier League has a problem. Because United are the biggest club in the league, the loudest story in the league, the club that drags the league's attention wherever they go, while also being the club that can't go 10 minutes without turning into a crisis. That contradiction is poison for them and for the league. Because when United are great, the Premier League has a villain. When United are normal, the Premier League has a flagship. But when United are broken, and still treated like the main character, everything warps around them. And right now, under Michael Carrick, United are doing the most dangerous thing possible. They're starting to look functional again. But here's the part nobody noticed. That's not fixing the problem. That's hiding it. Let's rewind. A decade of resets. New manager, new system, new signings, new project, new excuses. Then the same ending. Collapse. Sacking. Another reset. Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer, Rangnick, Ten Hag, Amorim, Carrick. That's not a dynasty. That's a revolving door. And every time that door spins, the Premier League pays a price. Because the league's biggest spotlight is attached to a club that keeps short-circuiting. Now, if this was Everton, it would be a tragedy. If this was Wolves, it would be a story. But because it's Manchester United, it becomes the league's obsession. Every title race becomes how far off are United. Every transfer window becomes who are United buying. Every controversial decision becomes, would that have happened if it was United? It's exhausting. And that's the point. United aren't just a club. They're a gravity well. And when the gravity well is unstable, the whole league's orbit changes. Now let me show you the exact moment the league realized this was getting ugly. December 2025. Arsenal. United get thrashed 4-1. And it wasn't just a loss. It was a humiliation in HD. The kind of game that makes rivals laugh and makes neutrals say, wait, are United actually finished? Then the league does what it always does. It turns United into content. Pundit arguments, clip farms, fan cams, debates about standards, debates about culture, debates about bottling. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part is that United didn't look like a team failing. They looked like a club failing. Because when you lose 4-1, the question isn't who played badly. It's why does this keep happening, no matter who the manager is? And that's where the Premier League problem begins. Because the Premier League sells itself as the toughest league in the world, the most competitive league, the most watched league. But its biggest brand has spent the last decade acting like a cautionary tale. A club with unlimited attention and limited coherence. Now, this is where Michael Carrick enters, and why he makes the story even more complicated. Carrick didn't arrive with theatrics. He didn't arrive with buzzwords. He arrived with something United haven't had in years. A simple plan. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Carrick's first move wasn't tactical genius. It was discipline. Fixed spine. Clear roles. Minimal rotation. A shape that doesn't change every time United lose a duel. 4 games, 4 wins. First 4-game league win streak since February 2024. Up to 44 points. And suddenly, United are 4th again. So here's the new question. Is the Premier League's Manchester United problem about United being bad, or about United being unpredictable? Because look at the 2 Uniteds Carrick has already shown us. United versus Tottenham, February 7th, 2026. This wasn't a smash and grab. This wasn't United DNA chaos. This was control. Sexo Galv treads % possession, 23 shots to 5. Tottenham barely lay a glove on them. United score from a rehearsed corner routine, Ruben Amorim arriving exactly where he's supposed to arrive. Then Bruno seals it late. That's not luck. That's a coach. That's a team with triggers, with spacing, with a plan to suffocate. And that's where the game was actually decided. Not in the goals, in the structure. Carrick brings that old-school backbone, 4-4-2, two midfielders holding the center, wingers doing actual winger work, and Bruno finally free to do what he does best, without being asked to fix the entire club. Casemiro plus Kobe Mainoo as a double pivot isn't fancy, but it's intelligent. One protects, one connects, and suddenly United can breathe. That's why Tottenham couldn't get out. That's why United kept recycling pressure. That's why Spurs spent 90 minutes chasing shadows. And here's the scary part for the league. If Carrick can get that out of this squad in a month, what happens when it's a full season? But there's always a but with United. Because just a week earlier, against Fulham, we saw the other United. The Fulham game, United go 2-0 up. Casemiro scores, Cunha scores. Old Trafford thinks it's comfortable. Then the familiar disease returns. They stop controlling the game. They stop managing the clock. They stop killing momentum. They start playing like a team waiting for something bad to happen. Fulham drag it back to 2-2, and United are staring into the abyss again. Then Šeško saves them. And everyone calls it character. But that word, character, is exactly what makes the Premier League problem worse. Because every time United win like that, the club gets to pretend the bigger issues don't matter. They get to paper over cracks with a viral moment. They get to sell the comeback instead of fixing the collapse. So when you zoom out, the Premier League's Manchester United problem becomes three problems stacked on top of each other. First, United still dominate the league's attention without dominating the league. The Premier League needs United. Let's not pretend otherwise. They're the club casual fans recognize. The club that turns any match into a worldwide event. But if that club is unstable, the league becomes unstable with it, because the league's narrative keeps orbiting a crisis. Second, United distort the competitive landscape, especially in the transfer market. When United panic, the market inflates. Fees climb, wages balloon, agents circle. And because United are united, they often pay it, because failing is expensive. And at Old Trafford, the only thing more expensive than failing is being patient. Third, United's off-field chaos becomes a league-wide PR issue, because the story is always bigger than the pitch. The protests aren't just a fan issue, they're a headline that follows the Premier League worldwide. The debt talk follows them. The ownership questions follow them. And the most haunting part is that Sir Alex Ferguson warned about this years ago with a line that keeps getting dragged back into the conversation. Debt is the road to ruin. Whether you think it was prophecy or just common sense, the fact United fans keep repeating it tells you the truth. They don't feel like the club is being run like a football club anymore. And here's where it gets controversial, because it's the part the league doesn't like to say. When Manchester United are unstable, it creates noise that drowns everyone else out. A mid-table club can have the best season in its history and still get pushed aside because United lost a derby. A title race can be tight and still turn into, can United sneak into it? And that's why the league has a problem. Not because United are failing, because United are failing loudly. Now, let's go back to Carrick, because this is where the plot thickens. Carrick's United are showing something the league hasn't seen from them in years: adaptability. Against City earlier in the season, United didn't try to outpossession Pep. They played pragmatic. They hit transitions. They accepted suffering. Against Spurs, they dominated. Against Fulham, they survived. Carrick isn't obsessed with looking clever. He's obsessed with being effective, and that's why he could become a serious problem for the Premier League. But here's the twist. Carrick also risks becoming the Premier League's biggest trap. Because if he wins enough games, the club can tell itself, we're fine. We're back. Just trust the process. And if you're a United fan, you've heard that movie line before. It always ends the same way. The cracks return, the pressure spikes, the system collapses, the reset button gets smashed again. So the real stakes aren't whether Carrick is a good manager. The stakes are whether United finally stop being a club that needs saving every 18 months. Because that's what Ferguson never allowed. In his era, United weren't perfect, but they were stable. Standards were clear. Recruitment had logic. Authority wasn't negotiable. And the club had one identity: win, adapt, outlast. The post-Ferguson era has been the opposite. Identity by appointment, tactics by trend, signings by panic, culture by crisis. And you can't build a dynasty like that. You can only build moments. So, yes, right now, United are winning. Yes, Carrick has them organized. Yes, Old Trafford is starting to feel alive again. But the Premier League's Manchester United problem isn't solved by a 4-game streak. It's solved by one thing: a club as big as Manchester United behaving like a serious football organization again for years, not weeks. And until that happens, the league stays trapped in the same cycle. United dominate the conversation. United distort the market. United drag controversy into every weekend. United steal the oxygen, whether they're good or bad. So here's the final question, the one that decides whether this story becomes a comeback or another warning. Is Michael Carrick the beginning of Manchester United becoming normal again? Or is he just the next chapter in the Premier League's biggest addiction? Because if Carrick really is building something, if these set pieces, this structure, this discipline become permanent, then the league has a new problem. Manchester United might finally return, without anyone being ready for it. But if it collapses again, then the Premier League doesn't just have a Manchester United problem, it has a permanent scar. So tell me in the comments, is this Carrick run real, or is it another illusion? And if you want the next episode, where we break down the exact tactical switch Carrick made that changed United's midfield overnight, subscribe, because this story isn't ending, it's escalating.